Well, again, good morning. It's great to see all of you today, and thank you for being with us. Again, if you're visiting, we hope that what we offer you today will be a blessing to you. If we're thinking about or watching that, the journey's not always easy. Can we agree to that? But it's about the destination. And that's what we're finding as we look in this message today. What does it mean to follow? What does that even mean? What does that look like? The word follow. This is important that we look at definitions, that we look at understanding. The word follow means to go or come after. Now that's going to be important as we look through this message. To go or come after. We conclude, as I said earlier in the introduction, we conclude this series of messages today on the must for a new start. Of course, we could go on and on for multitudes of topics with that, but I really was drawn to this passage today as I began to study and prepare for the week. What does this mean? What does it mean to follow? Because that is truly the main point of everything that we're doing, right? That is the entire purpose of why we gather, why we do what we do, why we do all these things, is are we following Him? Are we truly understanding that message? We begin in verse 34, and it says, calling the crowd. So in other words, everybody that was close by, everybody that was there, all of those that were listening with, it says, along with his disciples. So in addition to his disciples, he wanted them to hear this too. Okay, so this message was for everybody that would listen. This message today is for everybody who will listen. And we see, he said, if. Now, of course, we've talked about that word many, many times in messages. If sets the condition. If sets the choice, if you will. If anyone. All right, so there again, that is no exceptions, no exemptions. If anyone wants to, that's a desire, that's the choice, that's the intentional, sincere, really means it, follow. All right, so we see that each one of these words have a significance, right? If anybody wants to follow after me. Okay, what is he saying? He wants to follow. Again, we go back to our definition. Go, come after, be where I am, get where I am going. All right, he said, if you want to be there, if that's what you desire, you want to follow after, meaning remain in pursuit. How easy is it to get on a path and then go another way? We do it all the time, right? Distractions are all around us, and none of us are exempt. It happens all the time. He said, but if you want to follow after me, this is specific, this is clarity, this leaves no doubt, no question as to who is being followed. So we have a clear target, a clear understanding. He said, they must. They must. He must. She must. Anyone, because we go back to the word anyone, let him, with no exceptions. This is how it works. This is the requirement. This is the absolute. This is a must that cannot be left out. Deny. Now we hear that word, and what do? Put the brakes on. Whoa, wait a minute. Deny? What? I don't want to deny anything. I don't want to miss out on anything. I don't want to cut myself short on anything. I mean, I'm not doing without. Isn't that kind of our first inclination of when we hear that word? I'm not doing without anything. I'm not cutting myself off. But is that what he's asking? I want us to look a little deeper there. See, we hear that because we've been so accustomed to hearing, well, I'm denying you this or I'm denying you that. So that's cut off. And if I'm denying myself, I'm cutting myself off, right? I'm not doing without anything. I'm going to have what I want. That's the way that we're kind of conditioned to believe, right? But that's not what he's saying. I want us to look at this a little deeper because that word deny, it has so many different meanings and illustrations. We can deny a truth, right? Well, I refuse to believe that. Even though it's true and we know that it's true, water's wet. Nope, you're not going to convince me. I'm making my mind up. I'm not going to believe that. You can do that. You can deny that truth. That doesn't make it not true though, right? Same thing, right? I deny your request. If you've ever served in any kind of way, sometimes that happens, or maybe even as a parent sometimes, In other words, I refuse to grant you permission. I want to focus on that one. I refuse to grant you permission. I will not deny myself of that. And you can fill in the blank, whatever pleasure that may be, and it could be of all different sorts. I'm not going to do that. Regardless of the definition, regardless of the manner in which it is used, the one common theme here amongst all of those definition and illustration is one word, one letter, I. Think about it for a minute. I'm not going to. It just continues, right? And so we see how that is working. Jesus is simply saying this when we hear that word. If, in other words, you make the choice to follow me. If you make the choice to follow me, then you must deny, let's go back to the definition, not grant permission to your greatest obstacle that prevents you from truly following him, and that's you. That's the one looking back and forth at you at the mirror. You are your greatest obstacle. I am my greatest obstacle. I fought this guy all week. I mean, I don't know, he won't go away. Every time I look, there he is, right? Every time I look in the mirror, there he is. It's like, confound you, go somewhere else for a little while, right? That's how we wrestle. That's how he's saying, if you're going to follow me, it's got to be me and not you. Now, again, is he denying us life? No, he came to give us life. And we're going to talk deeper about that as we look at it. He's saying, you must deny that person. You must deny that person the permission, the access, the fulfillment of continuing to be in charge. And he's talking about, you're talking to yourself here. You know, there was an old song years ago that said, it's time to have a little talk with myself. This is what he's talking about, okay? He said, because following Christ means your full attention is there, right? Your full attention is there, and not on everything else that grabs your attention. Right? That's a hard place to be. Why? Because we live in a selfish world. I want this and I want that. And we're not talking about that any of those things are necessarily wrong. We're not talking about moral issues and back and forth. We're talking about what has my attention. Where is this leading me? Because the things that have my attention will lead me somewhere, whether that's good or bad, okay? Or somewhere in between, okay? We wrestle with this. Is Jesus saying, okay, you follow me, life's over? No, that's not what he's saying. He's not saying follow me and give up living. Just give up fun and give up life and be an old stiff. No, that's not what he's saying at all. What he's saying is, if you follow me, then you'll find out what life really is. You'll find out what life is and that I gave it to you and it more abundantly. And then we'll find out that we begin to see the light that is shining on our path, which allows us to see us where we're going. Okay? That's what happens when we begin to follow him, because it tells us he is the light of the world. Does light help us? Of course. We live in a very dark world, you know, literally, physically, and metaphorically, and every other kind of way, right? It's all around us. Sometimes we need light shed on things. Sometimes the light allows us to see, wait a minute, that's a dangerous path. I don't want to go down that one. Thank you, Lord, for letting me see that. Because if I wasn't following you, that's exactly where I would go. Because that's where I want to go. That's what's drawing me. That's what's enticing me. But because I'm following you, I'm not going there. Jesus is saying here, this is the heart of the Father. This is what I want you to know. Just like it said in that great little illustrative video there, this is what the Lord is saying to us. I know where you've been. I know where you're going. Let me show you a better way. That's all he's trying to get us to understand when he's saying, follow me. That's what he's trying to get us to, is if you will follow me, I'll take you somewhere better. Does that make sense? Okay? If we have one that cares about us, we think about this again from a parent. Okay, we ask our kids to follow us, whether they're literally physically walking behind us or whether they're following our ways. We're telling them this is okay. This is the way to go. This is where you will learn. It might not always be easy, but this is where you will learn. This is where you will grow. That's all God is telling us. So he continues in this verse and he says, if anyone wants to follow after me, let him deny himself And then we see the next part. It says, take up his cross and follow me. Wait a minute. Take up your cross. Well, remember, if anyone, right? So this is no exemptions. This is what he said. This is no exemptions. He says, desires to follow. So let me ask you a couple of questions. What burdens do you struggle with? This is reflection time. What burdens do you struggle with? And everybody's got a different one. We all do. What's heavy in your life right now? Everybody's got something, okay? And it's not beating anybody up. That's just true. We all have something that we're wrestling with. It could be family struggles. It could be financial. It could be health. It could be spiritual. Let me tell you, the spiritual battle is very, very real, okay? I mean, I'll be very, very transparent. I've been fighting that all week, okay? Because I believe the closer you get to the real truth, the more the enemy is trying to get you off track. Because if you know the truth, not only does the truth set you free, but you're able to set others free. And one that wants to keep you in bondage doesn't want that. He don't want anybody free, right? It's a real thing. So when we think about this, what am I struggling with? What is heavy in my life right now? What feels like it's just too much? Maybe sometimes you wake up in the morning and you think, I just can't do this today. I just can't keep on with it. But here God is saying, if you're going to follow me, you got to take up your cross. I need to carry more. I want to carry another heavy burden. I want to carry this albatross. No, this is what he's saying. Now, I want you to hear this. This is so great. Not because I wrote it, but it's just, he's saying, bring it with you. Don't ignore it because it's there. Don't ignore it. Don't deny that it's there. Deny you. Deny yourself the permission to try and fix it. Instead, bring it with you. Follow me, and he will show you something. He will show you not only how to get rid of it, he will show you it's not nearly as heavy as you think it is because he's already defeated it. Think about that. That's why he said, bring it with you. I'm going to show you it's not nearly as bad as you think. Because when we're carrying that heavy load, and we get weak in the knees, and we get the woe is me, and we get on the pity pot, and we stay there, because we get attention, and people feel sorry for us. We're emotionally drawn to those things, and again, everybody has their moment. So hear me. But what God is saying is, I don't want you to deny that is there. I don't want you to ignore that is there. Bring it with you. Come on, because I can take care of it. I've already defeated it. I just need you to know that. And the only reason you don't know it is because you're in the way. That's all he's trying to get us to understand here, because it was taken care of. It's not a thing to continue on to remind you of it. No, it's to bring it with you so you can get rid of it. Who wants to keep carrying that stuff around? But how many of us do? It's almost like a shackle. We just tie it to our tether that we tie to our leg. I saw this guy give an illustration years ago, and he had a really heavy park bench on the stage, and he took a leather string over tied to it, and he tied it to his ankle, and he's trying to preach, and it stopped him every time he's trying to go anywhere. It was a physical illustration. I said, that's what we try to drag around all the time. But God is saying, bring it with you. And it's like the old Tom Glazier song, put another log on the fire. Let's get rid of that. You don't need that anymore. I've already taken care of it. But what we see is, why is that important? Why do we need to know this? Why is this a must if we truly desire new? Why? Well, he goes on in verse 35, and he says, for whoever wants to save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life because of me and the gospel will save it. Wait a minute. For, as we look at this message, this verse, in other words, here's the reason. Here's the understanding that I need you to get to have. This is where I need you to get to be. For whoever, again, no exceptions. We're not leaving anybody out. This is the rule, if you will. This is how it applies to everybody. Whoever wants to save his life will lose it. Now that seems like a very strange concept, right? That seems almost backwards. How does that apply? How does that work? I mean, if I save my life, I lose it? Key word, I. We've got to go back to the word I, because look at how that ties to follow me. Deny self. If I save my life, in other words, I remain on my pathway, my terms, going and doing it my way, the results are what? My choice. That's where I went. Can we really truly blame anybody else? Not really. At the end of the day, who did it? We don't like to admit that. We don't want to be in that boat. Nobody does. And that starts from the time that you're little. You know, I remember when the girls were little, and they're not here today, so I can talk about them. No, but when they were little, you know, they're both are doing something, and one spills something, or one breaks something, or whatever. You know, go in the room, and they're both standing there. Well, one looks a little more guilty than the other, okay? But they're probably going to blame the other one. But you just know, okay? You just know. And so what we see here is the results of the things that we do are just that. The results of the things we do, which will not lead me to the results that I'm truly hoping for because I refused help. Think about that. We talked about that in a message a few weeks ago. If you're drowning and someone offers you a lifeline, life preserver, boat, whatever, and you say, nope, I got it. Is that death, which is coming, is that death a punishment or a consequence? I did it. I was offered the help. I was offered the answer. This is all he's saying. If you want to follow me, if is the key word. If this is what you want to do, and this is for every believer, if you want to follow me, this is how you do it. And this is why you do it that way, because I can show you the right way. But see, along the way, sometimes we convince ourselves, I'm right. I'm right, and I'm right all the time. And so what happens is your way becomes your result. And that's just practical example. That's just real. But what he's saying here is, he says, but if you save your life, you will lose it. But whoever loses his life because of me and the gospel will save it. So the but here is the alternative, the other road, if you will. He says, whoever, all who desire, loses his life, denies himself and follows me. That's the old song. I have decided to follow Jesus. No turning back. We hold on to that, right? He says, if that's where you are, and you follow me, you decide to go there, and you do this, and you lose your life because of me, and because of the gospel, the absolute truth, he says, you'll save it. You'll save it. Now here he's speaking clearly of eternity, but also he's saying you are saving your witness. Because of that, others will follow him too. They will see there's a better way. They will see there's a brighter path. They will see there's something to this. It's not just something to do. It's not just something to say. There's something deeper here. And so what we realize is what others see matters. Because if we're following anything, everybody else is going to see it, right? If you're a fan of a team, you wear their colors or whatever. You're a fan of an entertainer. You may have a poster, or you may wear a T-shirt. People know what you follow, right? So we're not talking about just you have to advertise Jesus. I mean, so it's great if you want to put him on your shirt. I wear plenty of them. Okay, but it's the point of it's you. You are what others see. But are they seeing him or you? That's the challenge that he's giving to all of us here. And he says, if you lose your life, because you're following me, losing, not mean dying, but I've denied myself of the things that the world is trying to take and pull me here and there, but I'm following him. I see something better. And I save that life eternally and preserve it for now, which again goes back to the beginning. In verse 34, if anyone wants to follow after me, that's how it works. If anyone, this is the message for all and to all. So verse 36 brings it back and he says, for what does it benefit? What does it profit? How does this help eternally if someone gains the whole world? All right, so we think about that. If someone gains the whole world, I've got it all. I've got everything. I've got riches, man. I got fame. I got power. I got it all. But he says, and yet loses his life, loses his very soul. Think about this for a minute. Gain and profit. Those are words that we hear, and we instantly think of financial things, right? We're gaining, we're making a profit on this business, we're gaining in the stock market, whatever, all these different things. I've accumulated everything. Therefore what? I have need of nothing. Now think about this for a minute. That can sound arrogant, it can sound prideful, but it can also be a state of mind. I'm in such a good place. What else do I need? All right. But what he's saying is be very, very careful in resting there. Be very careful in becoming in that place, because this can keep you not just from looking, but it keeps you from looking and understanding and denying that more ways exist. I've got it all figured out. Therefore, there's no more answers. There could be nothing else. He's saying be very careful with that, because you could find yourself in a place to where it's easily to become blind in that place. Why is that so important? Because he brings it back up in the book of Revelation. He rebukes the church of Laodicea for this very thing. He says, you say now that you have need of nothing. What was he talking about? You don't even need me anymore. You got it all figured out. Okay, how did that start? We have to go back to the church of Ephesus. They left their first love. Okay, what is that? What is that signifying? Okay, when we leave something in this life, it could be someone or something. Okay, we can go down both roads with that. But here's the practical application. If you leave something, what? In nearly 100% of the cases, almost every time, what do? We replace it with something else. I'm leaving this for that. I'm leaving them for them. We see it happens all the time. That's life, okay? What he's saying here is what that led to, and what those illustrations are for, is leaving him moved and evolved to not needing him. Does it happen in our lives? Absolutely. Okay? When we don't deny ourselves, when we don't grant ourselves permission to stay on the path that we're going, the place that I have chosen, the place that I am going, when we don't do that and we don't follow him, then I'm pursuing everything that I'm after. Okay? Dreams, goals, things, none of those things are wrong. We're not talking about that. But what he's saying is, what kind of guide do we have along the way? What is leading me there? Me or someone else? Okay, that's what's important, because if we're only listening to this, we may be missing out on the real thing, and we're not seeing the proper light that is shining. A faint light only lets you see some things. The light lets you see it all. Okay? If we dim the lights in this room, we only see images and shadows. We turn them all on, we see everything. Right? That's what the difference is in following him. Do we see it all, or do we see just a little bit? So we look at the thing of, so what is he asking that we gain or profit if you have it all, but you lose your most valuable possession, your life, your soul, your very eternal being? He said, if you lose that, what have you truly gained? You had everything. You had everything. I mean, some of you from my generation and beyond, there was a T-shirt years ago, maybe even a poster. I remember down at Myrtle Beach, it was a very, very popular T-shirt. He who dies with the most wins. Think about that logically for a minute. Is that true? Well, I don't think so, because somebody else is fighting over it now. I mean, I've done 400 funerals in my time, and I've seen more families squabble over what was left behind and broke up families and instances. I mean, it's a mess. But what we see here is, he said, if you got everything, you can be Elon Musk today, be the richest man in the entire world. Out of 8 billion people, think about that. One person is the richest person in the entire world. If he dies today without Christ, none of that means a thing. None of it means anything. Okay? It'll be split up beyond the heirs and whatever. Okay? And I'm not quite, I don't know the man, so I don't know where his heart is with the Lord. But all I'm saying is, if that's where he is, and he don't have, that's it. It doesn't matter. So what he's saying is, what if you've got everything, but you lose your most valuable possession? This is speaking of now, life now, true joy, hope, all these different things, and later, our eternal soul, because we didn't follow him. Now, that's not a warning or a threat. He's saying, if you want to go down the right pathway, there's only one way to get there. Okay, that's why he says, no one comes unto the Father but by me. Again, a very, very clear picture that he doesn't leave anything out. All right, but what he's saying is when you didn't follow me, this resulted in not only remaining lost, but even worse, you didn't show others there was a better way. Okay, that is our purpose. Because I want to think about that as we move further into the message. We get offers every day, right? Every day. Whether there's a flyer in the mail, a junk email, or whatever. I even get them on my text now. I mean, I don't know where this stuff comes in. I shared with you last week just kind of comically, but it's still true. I've had 15 calls this week that told me I qualified for burial insurance. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but I don't want to find out. And so we find here, we get offers all the time. Again, literal, a product, an opportunity, or a commercial saying, you've got this, or you can call and get this life-changing thing. We think of the word exchange. Jesus says here, what can anyone give in exchange for his life? We think about that, okay? The word simply means trading one thing for another. All right, that's really a simplistic meaning there. It could be money, it could be time, it could be services. In other words, I'll give you this in order to get that. Jesus says, what can anyone give in exchange for his life? Now, that seems like a strange question, right? Because nobody would do that, right? I mean, on the surface, we would even balk at that idea. Well, that's kind of silly. Why would I wouldn't give anything in exchange for my life, because we only look at life as the breathing capacity. Okay? We don't look at the totality of it. We just look at the fact that I'm alive, I'm walking, I'm breathing. But that's so much deeper. Life is so much more than that. Because we think about the idea, silly illustration, somebody offers you a bowl of soup in exchange for your life. Well, you would say no, right? You would think so, right? You would hope so. And that seems silly, but we have to understand what the word life really means. Life is just not breathing. Life is just not walking around. Life is a mission. It has an intent. It has a purpose. What are we doing with it? Why are we here? Well, of course, industries and books have been millions of dollars have been made on what is your purpose, right? But what are we looking at? What is the intent? What is the mission? It is the purpose. We go back to follow me. Follow gives us a direction, right? Follow gives us a pointing towards something, a destination, if you will. Jesus said, him directly, come to give, that is to offer you life. We put that together. What do we find? Life is a gift. Okay, life is a gift. It's not just the very breath that was placed into us, the breath of life that was given, but it is the purpose. And he said, and I come to give you that life and it more abundantly. So he's asking the question, what would you exchange for that? What would you trade that for? What would you trade that for? Again, on the surface, one might quickly say, nothing. I wouldn't give up my life for anything or something else. But yet, how many do it every day? How many do it every single day after pursuing this and pursuing that and everything else, all the whole while following him never enters into the equation? I got to do this, I got to do that, I'm after this. It just simply means staying on the path that leads us to a dead end. Okay? If the sign says dead end when you turn into the cul-de-sac or you turn onto the road and it says dead end, does that destination ever change? But do you still drive to the end just to make sure? How many of us have done that? The sign is there, but I got to go find out. I really don't mean that. The bridge is out. I'm going to drive up to and see if that's really. We do it, right? We're kind of creatures of habit, and we do that. But here, what he's trying to get us to understand, friends, is he says, I've given you this gift. I've given you this incredible, beautiful gift. But what are you going to do with it? And would you trade it for anything else? Would you get rid of it for something else? That's a literal question and a figurative question. We got to be thinking on both sides of this. Would I really do that? In some cases, the answer is yes. Not maybe even thinking about the results. So that pathway that says dead end, that ends in a dead end, is that cruel or unfair? No. No, not at all, because it's the choice that is laid before us. Which road am I going to travel? Am I going to follow him, or am I going to follow me? You know, and again, I put myself in those illustrations all the time because I can just tell you from experience, when you follow you, I know when I followed me, I pretty much ended the ditch every time, okay? You know, I don't just stop at the sign that says bridges out. I see and I'm swimming, and I don't swim well, right? That's how we go. And so what road will you take? Here, this is the challenge that he's giving us. Which road will you take? Maybe today you're on the wrong road. That's okay. I want you to be here, okay? Maybe you're on the wrong road. Maybe you're hearing this and you're thinking, well, I'm going to give you some good news today. Maybe you're on the wrong road. But the beauty of that wrong road is it has off-ramps. It's got U-turn spots. It's got places in there that says you can go the other way. You can turn around. You don't have to keep going the wrong way. Every mile marker that you pass, you're getting further and further and further away from the real destination that you're going. But every time it's saying, it's like your GPS lady, redirect. Now, okay, you have the opportunity to turn that around. Will you? Or will you just ignore it and deny that reality, deny that it's there? It truly, honest to goodness, friends, it truly depends on who you're following. It honestly depends on who you're following, him or yourself. Okay, reflection moment as we start kind of winding this up. Let's just a little bit more. Do we exchange life for something else? I want you to think deep for a minute. Do we accept that something else could fulfill better? Do we accept that something else that could fulfill beyond what the very one who created life, the very one who gave life, the very one who could offer life, do we think that something could be better than that? Do we understand the depth of this gift? Because what does it mean to follow? What does it mean to follow? Simply, it means finally learning to look beyond yourself. That's a very difficult place to get because we're never conditioned that way from the time that we're little. It's always about you. Every marketing campaign and commercial advertisement today is about who? You. Have it your way. This is not about being, I'm supposed to be a poor church mouse and never. It's got nothing to do with that. I can't have anything, I got to wear rags until they fall off. No, it's got nothing to do with that. He said, which way are you going to go? Because if I'm only going my way, I'm not concerned about what else is going to happen to anybody else. I'm not concerned about where my way may lead someone else. Think about that. We go back to children emulating us. They listen to every word you say. They watch every move you make, good, bad, and ugly, and everything in between. I know when my little girls were little, I had to really be careful sometimes because, I wasn't always a preacher. I did learn some other things in life, and sometimes things would slip. And they'd be like, did you hear that? But seriously, I mean, we think, they watch, okay? Who are people seeing? What path are we following? Do we exchange that for? I'm not bashing anybody because I'm talking to me as much as I am you. I'm not trying to make anybody feel guilty or have any condemnation, but this is a real life question, If we desire, truly want to follow him, that is what we really want to do. Are we really, really willing to travel the road that he sets before us? Are we willing to travel that road and take the chance that it's going to be okay? Or do we want to hold on to our way? That's really what it comes down to. It really does. Gifts. I want us to think about that word as we move toward our ending. A gift. All right, we're just very, very recently coming out of the Christmas season, right? We all receive gifts of some sort. All right, doesn't matter what it was, doesn't matter what it cost. All right, but a gift has a intent. It has a purpose, right? whether it's a knick-knack on the shelf, whether it's socks to keep you warm, food to fill your tummy, whatever the case, doesn't matter. Something to fix your car, something to improve your house, something to make you look better. Okay, we all have, they have a purpose. Whether it's a tool or a resource, it doesn't matter. They have a purpose, a method to fulfill a need. But we read here that life is a gift. So I want you to think about that for a minute. What do I do with it? What have I done with this gift that God has given me? Have I found its purpose? Do I know what it's good for? Do I know what the use of it is? Do I use that? Or do I put it on the shelf, thinking, maybe even hoping that I could find something better? I know this sweater looks okay, but I don't really like it. I'm going to put it over here in the closet. Maybe they'll forget they gave it to me and I'll find me a better one. Sometimes we do that with life, okay? I don't like this. I don't like me. I don't like who I am. That should be an indication that there's a need for a change, right? Okay? There's only one that can offer us the real change that we need. And that's what he's saying, will you follow me? So we see how follow me is an invitation. It's not just an alternative, all right? It's not just an alternative. In other words, it really does lead to somewhere better, okay? It's not just a statement or a saying or a scripture. No, there's a purpose behind it. He's saying, follow me, because he can lead us to a better place. But it also creates the opportunity to show others this same truth and bring them along with you. Right? That's what this whole thing is about. And so we see, as this is beginning to wrap up, he says, if we deny ourselves, in other words, my way doesn't always send me to the right place. Isn't that true? We can all admit that. That's not a bad thing or a guilt thing. That's just true. He said, if we deny ourselves, take up our cross, don't ignore it. Don't ignore it, but take it with you and let him show you how to overcome it. Let him show you how you don't have to keep carrying it around. Follow him, get on a better path, and then we begin to see the beauty of the gift of life, because it is a gift, and we begin to see how beautiful it really is. It is a must if we desire something new. It has to be there. And so we look at this last part. We see the conviction, if you will. We see the conclusion of this lesson. He says this, for whoever, there's that word again. So again, nobody's left out. Whoever is ashamed of me and my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, the Son of Man will also be ashamed of him. Whew. That's kind of heavy, isn't it? All right, but I want you to listen to what he's saying here. We've seen this word, whoever, throughout this whole entire text, right? There's no exceptions. Nobody gets left out. He says, whoever is ashamed of me and my words. I want you to think about that word. Ashamed means embarrassed. Ashamed means reluctant to say or to do something because of embarrassment or fear. If we find that feeling as it pertains to our faith, that is a direct implication we are not following close enough. We've truly not come to know him. We've truly not come to understand who he really, really is. This is not mere religion, friends. This is about a relationship with our Creator. This is about the one that gave us the gift of life and understanding who he really is. There is work to do. And we all can have work to do, right? We all have our moments, because he says here, if you're ashamed of me in this adulterous, again, just meaning unfaithful, not committed, finding other things, and sinful outside of the will of God, generation, all who see the Son of Man will be ashamed of him when he comes in the glory of his Father with his holy angels. When, meaning it's gonna, not if, when. He said, there will be a day. Simple version is this: if you're ashamed of me, I'll be ashamed of you, because I'll have no reason to speak favorably on your behalf. That's a direct implication of where our following is. Are we following him? Do we know him or just know about him? Okay, two very, very different things. And we hear that, and maybe instantly, again, even like with the word deny, we just, but. No, I want you to understand what he's saying here. When one is embarrassed of their belief or their relationship with Christ, that is not a healthy relationship. That holds true in our personal lives too. If we would be embarrassed for someone to meet our spouse or meet our best friend or our mom or our dad, that's a reflection that relationship is not in a good place. And we've all been there. We've all had people that we would rather not know that people knew that we were associated. We've all been there, okay? Some embarrassing thing, or maybe they don't act right, or whatever the case. But when it comes to our faith, we got to ask ourselves, would I be ashamed, would I be embarrassed to tell somebody that I love Jesus? That's pretty heavy. But it's a real thought, because am I there? That doesn't mean, okay, I want you to understand this. Following him, knowing him, living for him does not mean that the only words that can come out of your mouth are Scripture. Okay, that's not what that means. It does not mean that you live here in the church building, you don't go anywhere else. You're inside of a bubble, okay? That doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that you only watch preaching on TV, which I would not encourage you to do, but that's a whole different story. It doesn't mean that you only listen to hymns. No. What it means is, if he is who you follow, it will show. It will just be reflective in your life. You're just not the same person, you know? I'm not who I was, not who I am, not who I'm going to be. Well, all those, it's just that reflection. The direction of your walk will be clear, just as it is clear if you don't. There are several things, friends, that we must have. There's several things that we must do, and there's several things we must work on if we're looking toward a new year. That includes all of us. That is a whoever kind of a statement. Me and every single one of us, singularly and collectively, we've all got room to work. We've all got room to improve. And that's a good thing, because there's so much more ahead of us. If we'd already accomplished everything, if we were had everything settled, we wouldn't be here. We'd already be in the presence of the Lord, amen, because our assignment would be over. But because we're still here, we've still got work to do. So here's my question. Do you desire to follow him? Do you do that? Do you have that desire? Because if so, let's get going. Let's get going. Let's really kick this new year off. We're already into January, last Sunday of January. Can you believe this? You know, next week we're going to be in February, you know, the month of love and all. Well, we're going to see all the. Let's get going. The first step is all it takes to get started. That's all it takes to get started. And he'll help you get where you need to be. And it will guide you all the way home. I believe that with all my heart. I really believe that. Father, we thank you for the opportunity.